tonight. Join us live right here on YouTube. Our guest tonight, Tony Miller of Toned In Entertainment. How you doing tonight, Tony?
Man, fantastic as always. You're rocking NWO for life. I'm rocking the Stinger.
Oh,
So we're on the somewhat of the same wavelength here.
we joined forces to fight the evil of DX and Triple H.
Damn straight we do.
Just watching that WrestleMania the other day, I was trying to explain it to my kid. I was like, DX is Triple H's friend. The NWO, it's they band together. It's WCW. But speaking of Sting, I was going through your collection here, Toned In Entertainment, right here on YouTube, and one of the videos I seen. Oh God, yeah, I'm on the road as well. It's kind of an impromptu weekend. We're getting back into the swing of doing these lives. Goodness, this is not good. We'll see what the audio is, but yeah, we're jumping back into Sting. Seeing that your meet and greet with Sting. What was that experience like?
I mean, it's honestly the second time that I've met Sting through meet and greets. I did one about 8 years ago, 7 years ago. And I did the picture, and it was fun. It was cool. But this time I got to take my wife to meet Sting. So it meant even more to me that like I could share that experience with her with like essentially my idol, my icon, the greatest in my, um, personal opinion to ever step foot in the square circle. The fact that I got to share that experience with her made it even more special. And it was funny, we were actually in line, and I think she was freaking out more than I was. Like, why
All
are you staying so calm? She's like, this is thing. I'm like, I know, I'm trying to play it cool. Like, I'm trying not to, but it's just, I just remember going up to him and just going like this and telling him, thank you for everything. Like, you've made me the fan that I am today because, like, if it wasn't for Sting, I wouldn't be the hardcore wrestling fan that I was all my life. That's just being honest. But it's just amazing. Wonderful dude. Sammy Guevara was actually there at the same convention. He came in actually Sting as well too. Not to meet Sting, but like get an autograph or something from Sting while he was there too. Because I guess when you're in the locker room, you can't really ask for that kind of stuff. But he actually came into the autograph room and everything, and people were cheering for Sammy and Sting, and it was just an amazing experience.
Very cool, man. Yeah, that's one of the things we love to share here. One of the inspirations of us doing this was to share that passion and that love and that excitement, man. Just seeing the excitement on your face, just talking about what Sting means to you growing up and everything. It was very cool to see your reaction video as well to Sting's debuting in AEW and sharing that excitement. And with his recent announcement this past couple weeks, what do you think about this? His thoughts on his retirement announcement and this retirement tour?
Well, I'll go back to the reaction video first, and then I'll lead into that reaction. It's 100% organic. I saw a lot of fake reactions go up afterwards where people were looking at it on a laptop. We were actually home with COVID at the time, just
Okay.
at home watching TV, and then it appeared, and my wife took the video of me jumping out of my seat, going crazy, losing my mind. And I saw a lot of reaction videos online. I'm like, oh my God, they're sitting in front of a laptop going, oh my God. I'm like, no, no, no. What you see is my genuine reaction to Sting, coming to AEW. So that's a genuine reaction. As far as his retirement goes, whether what people think of AEW and whether they've done stuff right, whether they've done stuff wrong, I think that Tony Khan 100% has given, at least for Sting, the right way to end his career, let alone if he had ended it in the WWE at the time with the buckle bomb situation and just losing at WrestleMania. The legacy that he's getting to leave behind is, I think it's amazing. And I've already suggested and asked if we could go to the retirement match as well too in March. Like, it means that much that I go to something like that. So hopefully I think last year was in Orlando, or the year before it was in Orlando. And I'm in Miami, so it's 4 hours away. So it's March and it's really cold everywhere. So I'm hoping it'll be somewhere warm down south, so it won't be too far to go on a Sunday evening. But I think he's getting the ride off into the sunset, I think, the way he wants to. Would be a note. I mean, still performing at a higher level than a lot of newer talent, you know. So excuse me, I think for me, I think it's just been an awesome like ride for Sting these past couple of years, and I think I'm really hoping for something cool for his retirement match. Please, not Ric Flair. I don't want to see in the retirement match. Sting. I want to see Sting versus somebody in
Yeah,
AEW, you know, to go out on that big high end.
yeah, absolutely. It's exciting. Exciting to already start speculating on who that might be, or just retirement tour style. Like even like one that Daniel Bryan, or excuse me, Bryan Danielson is on, where it's kind of like dream fantasy wise for us fans. I think it's cool. Hopefully, yeah, we get that same kind of thing with Sting. And it's been cool. Yeah, we've got to see a different side. See him jumping off the ring. You can see the influence of Darby has on him, like that kind of legend looking, like the Bill Russell Kobe sort of dynamic with those two. It's kind of, I think that's one thing AEW has done really well is stick those guys, you know, stick them with a vet so they can learn the right way and everything. Um, yeah, going through your channel there, we talking about the cons and conventions and stuff. I noticed you have a lot of content outside of wrestling and kind of started off doing other content. How exactly did you get into doing the wrestling interviews? I mean, you've really made that your niche. You've really been doing a great job with your live streams, the looks and everything. It was an honor to be a guest on your show, and yeah, it's been great to see everything you've been doing, man.
Wow, you really dug deep back into the archives and from a few years
I
ago.
did. I did. I was
I
like,
think
I got to sort of, not quite as far as Nardwar, but yeah.
I think the actual first video I ever posted was like bubble soccer on my channel. It's just me and a group of friends playing bubble soccer, and it was one of those things when I launched a channel, I wanted to do something creative outside of my normal day to day, you know, work job. I had visions of doing stuff, and you know, even at the time when I launched the channel, I wasn't watching wrestling at the time. I had actually just taken a break, and I was focused on other things. I was doing a lot of Spartan races and Tough Mudders and traveling and doing stuff like that. So that's the kind of stuff I was vlogging and doing and putting on the channel, just adventures with friends and maybe like videos in Miami to show people Wynwood, the you know, or Orlando, or just like little touristy videos and stuff like that. And then kind of got out of that because I felt like when I went on vacation, you know what? It's so hard during the year that when I go on vacation, I want a vacation and not vlog it, right? And I want to spend time with my wife. You know, I want to have a good time, and I don't want to be vlogging the whole time. And it was one of those things where I'm like, I'm done with that. And it just kind of came, kind of like I don't know. I guess everything falls into places at the right time. With the interviews, my first interview wasn't even a wrestling interview. It was Ming Chan from Comic Book Men with Kevin Smith. It was at a convention. Random interview. I just had my Toned In Entrainment hat on. He asked me what the hat meant. I'm like, oh, I have a YouTube channel. He's like, oh, you want to do an interview? I'm like, sure. So we shot it with the phone in a convention. Horrible audio, but it is what it is. And then I actually had the opportunity randomly to interview Glacier as the first wrestler on the channel. Again, at a convention, not planned, didn't even know he was going to be there. I happen to know the guy whose booth he was at. I had met him through somebody, and it was right before AEW was getting ready to launch. I think it was in May, like the first week of May, and then AEW was launch weekend. And I just kind of asked him, like, Glacier, I'm a huge WCW fan. I have a channel. Would you mind doing it? He's like, sure, let's do it. Super cool. Again, with the cell phone, no horrible audio. I actually had to like uh, Google ways to clean up the audio because it was so bad inside of a convention with no microphone. And then it kind of just evolved from there, just kind of meeting a couple of the right people. I got introduced to Gangrel, who was very nice. And because of the contact that I had with another person that put me in contact, he let me come in and interview a couple of students, liked what I did, and then invited me back. So kind of like just kind of grew from like meeting a couple of the right people at the right time at the right place. And then it was like, okay, like start sending, you know, the clips out to different places and conventions. And I'll be honest, a lot of people are like, oh, you can come, you can show up, you have to buy a ticket, you know, to get in. And if they want to do stuff, cool. So I buy tickets to go to conventions, maybe get a couple here and there, and then I mean, now I've got conventions inviting me to come out to, and companies inviting me to come to their show. So it's like you put in the hard work, and you always try to act professional, um, and just show up and do what you're supposed to do. Post the videos, tag the people at the conventions, promote them. I always make sure the number one rule is the first thing I say is, "Hey, we're here at CCW. Hey, we're here at Mayhem on Mills. We're here at River City Wrestling Con." Promote the place that's giving you access to come in, right? Because they don't have to. Promote them. Talk a little bit about, you know, where you're at, the convention, the show, and then you can go into your interview. But always give the company or the venue credit because they are ultimately letting you inside their house to do this at the end of the day.
Well said, man. Well said. Yeah, yeah. None of this. Yeah, that's always the phrase we've been coming up. Forever grateful for pro wrestling. These opportunities, like you say, not promised or anything. Just show up and yeah, very cool. I love how you're talking about how it's just kind of this passion project and you're just going for it. And then yeah, like many times, fate will hey, come this way, and the journeys that we take and everything, and these moments that kind of looking back define us. But yeah, very cool to see the large catalog you've had of wrestling interviews
It's
since.
been awesome, man. It's been I mean, they say you live in the dream. You're definitely like it's just amazing that not only do people say yes to interviews, and also people like reach out to me and say, "Hey, do you have time for me to be on your show? When can we do an interview? Hey, I've got something cool coming up in 3 months from now. Do you think we could
Oh
set
yeah,
else up in 3 months from now because I have this particular thing happening?" And it's kind of like, wow, people are like, trusting me not only to like, keep what's going under wraps, obviously, as to what's going on, but and then to like have me be their first interview to talk about whatever new event or product or whatever it is that they're. I mean, the one, for instance, was this past weekend, um, or 2 weekends ago. Mikey Spandex, he was a referee in WWE under Marquise Hamilton, and he asked for from WWE um, as a referee because he just wanted to go back to becoming a wrestler, and he asked me to be his first interview back. He said it was like of all the podcasters, it was either me or one other person, and he was really happy that it was me to be his first interview. So that means a lot that people trust me to tell their story correctly, and not just mark out with them and ask them mark questions, and to like legitimately like dig into like you've done, dig into some of what they've done and know something about them and tell the story and not just do it for a quick interview or to be cool, but to legitimately, tell their story. And to me, I feel that's just awesome that people trust me with that.
beautiful, man. Yeah, that's definitely an honor to take. It's such a, especially the pro wrestling journalism sort of genre or whatever. It's really undefined, and like you said, trying to bring that professionalism to it. Yeah, definitely an honor, man, because they really trust in you with their brand and everything to present them in the right way.
I mean, it's tough to be honest. I have people that reply to me and they say, "Hey, I get a podcast request every single day from somebody," right? So
Yeah,
how many interviews can people do? But the fact that some big names have reached out and been like, "Hey, I talked to so and so. They said I should do your show." They said, "Yeah, go." And they're being selective. Some people can be very selective and do whatever they want, and it's tough. I mean, you probably know too. There's a million podcasters out there right now, and everybody's fighting for a lot of the same talent to get on. And how many times do people want to come on the shows and do interviews? I know I want to go on to a bunch of shows and do interviews. I'm happy like come onto your show and do an interview because I like what you do. I respect you. You're on my show. We had great chemistry. So yeah. But for me, I'm not really interested in doing interviews. I'm on podcasts and maybe do theme events or whatever. But it's the same thing with them. How many times do they want to answer the question? So you have
yeah,
to make sure you come with like a different, I think, professionalism and a different like maybe angle as to what everybody else is doing as well.
nice, man. Well said. Definitely. Yeah, yeah. There's million people running a podcast. It seems like I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get negative with this one. But yeah, it's hard to see sometimes where you're like ah. But yeah, to stand out in that field and be respected, very cool feeling. And then that con setting, or just bringing in wrestlers. I guess another cool aspect that I love about wrestling is being able to meet them like that, and then some people don't want to do interviews, and that's understandable. But like, yeah, being grateful the opportunities that you can have to interview people. I seen one of your throwback pictures there was you and your dad dressed up as Road Warriors for Halloween, and then you actually getting the opportunity to interview Road Warrior Animal as well. Like, can you take us behind that story?
Yeah,
What
I
that
can
like?
a little bit. That was actually before Toned In Entertainment was even, I think, even a thought. Because I'm talking might be 10 years ago now. So that was even before I reached the channel. So for my shoot job, I do video production and stuff like that. And I
Nice.
just happened to be sent to a convention in Miami that morning. Didn't even know what was going on. And it was actually the first like Comic Con that I had ever gone to. So I
Okay.
walked in and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm getting myself into. A bunch of people dressed up as Mario Brothers and Zelda and anime characters walking around. I have no idea who's even there. The only thing that they told me was try to get an interview with Shatner while you're there. Yeah, well, William Shatner charges like $10,000 for an interview, so you're not getting an with William Shatner, and he's got the longest line there. So I go around and I'm just walking around the convention, and literally, I'm walking down the aisle, and they have like the wrestling section of guys, and it's on a Friday, so it's the first day, so it's not too busy. And I see it's DDP, it's the Godfather, and it's Road Warrior Animal. Okay, and again, Sting is my favorite. The Road Warriors are my favorite tag team of all time. So again, I completely like fan not like I probably like clammed up into a shell, right? So I'd never interviewed a wrestler in my life. I had just kind of started doing this whole video production stuff out and about. And I literally walked past Road Warrior Animal's table like 3 times before I went over there because I was nervous. I was shaking. And I actually
Absolutely.
went up to the guy that was running the booth and I went up to him and I explained who I was, where I was working from, this and that. And thankfully it was a big enough, production to like the guy's like, okay, because usually they don't do interviews at conventions and stuff like that unless they know what's going on. And the guy's like, yeah, okay, you can go ahead and interview him. I'm like, okay. So I asked him like 3 questions. Literally, I kept it on topic of, hey, it's Friday, we're airing this. This is going to air on TV today. What would you say to people to get them to come down to the convention? Are they missing out? Just like some basic questions. And then they went over and I interviewed the Godfather as well too. Asked him like the same 3 questions. I didn't take a picture with because I was really focused on getting a picture of Road Warrior Animal. And I even asked the guy, "Can I take a picture?" Meanwhile, I didn't know that they charged for pictures. I didn't know any of that stuff.
All right.
I
All
was
right.
like, so he took a picture with me with Road Warrior Animal for free. And, I did the 2 interviews. And then they're like, oh, DDP is available too. But he had like a line of people. And I was on a timeline and I just didn't get over there. So it was kind of like, I at least got to ask the Godfather a few questions. Didn't get a picture. But I mean, Road Warrior Animal, RAP Road Warrior Animal, definitely one of my favorites of all time. So just again, just an amazing experience to have that little opportunity in this life that we live.
Yeah, very cool, man. Yeah, to see your passions, like going out to these different events and kind of seeing what was going on, like I said, in your early days, and then to have that opportunity to come across. So, you just talk about Sting and Road Warriors. Did you kind of grow up on NWA, WCW, or?
100%, dude. I mean, I grew up on all wrestling. I mean, my dad, when you say wrestling fan, was like wrestling was on 7 days a week in the household.
All
He used
right.
to like was it the Texas wrestling with the Von Erichs? It would air on like ESPN Monday through Friday. They would tape all the shows or
All right.
whatever. So they would air like 1 hour and it was UWF. Every wrestling talk show where they had like the Monday night one where they had Bobby the Brain and Gorilla Monsoon. It was on late talking. He taped everything. We watched everything. We made it was a tradition at my house to have cheeseburgers on Saturday night and to watch WCW at 6 o'clock on Saturday night. Like it was literally Sunday morning again, go to church, come home and watch WWF Superstars at like 11 o'clock or whatever it was. So we would go to the shows. Every WWF show down or NWA or WCW, we go watch it on closed circuit. At the convention center before pay per view or whatever. So it was literally like engraved in me, as a kid, and up until like the mid 2000s, till like I was in my early 20s, and then I wanted to go out clubbing, I wanted to party. You know,
Sure.
it was the PG era. There was only WWF at the time, so for me, that was my breakaway from everything until like I finally came back into it, several years ago, and it was like, oh, hey, I love this stuff, right? So it's just about where you are in life and what's going on with the product as well too. To I guess to keep you interested.
Yeah. Um, and I kind of felt the same, man. When I was a kid, I was really into wrestling, and then kind of fell out, after Vince and everybody bought everything, and you grow up and you live life and stuff. What was one of the things that brought you back to wrestling, or what was one of your favorite things when
Well,
you came back as a fan?
okay, well, the first thing that actually brought me back, when I met my wife at the time before we got married, before we were engaged, uh, she was actually a fan of Ronda Rousey in UFC. And it was Ronda going to WWF that she says, "Hey, do we get the channel that plays WWF or WWE?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." She's like, "Well, Ronda Rousey's on there." I'm like, "Okay, sure. Like, let's put it on and watch it." And from there, we did go to a Raw to go watch Ronda in action. So it was like one of those like things that just kind of brought you in. Then you start watching, then you start watching, WrestleMania, and then you start watching a couple Raws here and there, and you kind of get back into it. But for me, honestly, it was the ignition of AEW coming along to help bring competition, which is what needed. So I'm like, now there's WWE has to step up their game and you know get their act together and
Yeah.
brought me
And
in.
they've done some.
So then you have AEW, and then you have the indie scene exploding. Because when I was in my early 20s, I always tell people the indie scene, at least the shows that I went to, were really bad. Like it'd be
Yeah.
like, let's be honest, if me and you were wrestling, and nobody would want to come watch that, right? Like we're not.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was, and I mean, the main event would be like Marty Jannetty, and it'd be like versus a young guy or something like that. I'm like, oh, okay, why are it was just really, and friends would take me and they're like, oh, we're not going for the wrestling. We're going to laugh at the wrestlers because it's so bad.
All right.
When I came back to wrestling and I went to a Gangrel show, uh, and I mean, I went really because Big Papa Pump was going to be out on the show. I'm like, oh, I'll go see Scott Steiner. But let me tell you, the show that Gangrel was putting on time when he had the school, he's now the trainer at CCW, the head trainer at CCW. A lot of stuff has changed. But
Okay.
holy cow, the calibers of these independent wrestlers that he had on the show and the matches, like that was my spark right there. And I was like, and now some of those talents have gone on to wrestle in AEW or WWE and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is cool. So I started going to more of his shows. And then I'm like, where are all these shows popping up that I've never heard of, right? Before. And then again, you go down the rabbit hole, right? And you start watching stuff on YouTube and you're like, there's a whole nother world of amazing professional wrestling that isn't WWE on TV, and that was really, I was like, and then from there, I was like, you know, what if I start talking to these guys and girls, like the future, right? Like these people, I want to get my name out there. I want to get my name out there. It's kind of like a win-win. We're both, not known anywhere. So that's where it kind of grew as like, well, if I do some interviews with someone who I think has talent and potential, now you can look back at those interviews 4 years from now. Oh my God, look at this person. They're wrestling in this promotion. They're wrestling in that promotion. So it's just, again, it's like everything falls into place at the right time. I think one of those things, and I just happened to be going to the right show, meeting that right person at the right show, getting one more connection at that show to another show, and it just kind of worked from there.
Beautiful, beautiful. You talk about Gangrel's school, him being the head trainer at CCW. Where is that located?
Well, the school is in Pompano in Broward, but they run shows out of Miami and Pompano as well too. Well, CCW is running shows from Miami to Orlando and even Nashville. So I mean, they're running shows, but he does the school. But I know he shows up in Russell's once in a while in CCW, but he
All
still
right.
gets booked all around the country on a regular basis. So he's super busy, doing a bunch of other shows. But every once in a while, he comes back and does a show at CCW. But he's there like as the trainer at the school.
All right. Very cool.
And yeah, on a regular basis. Yeah,
Very cool. Yeah, yeah. He's a great personality. He pops up around Minnesota. I think was it like a Halloween show or something? Maybe I don't
probably
know. But yeah, had some classic feuds with Darren Corbin here in Minnesota. I'll have to send you some. That's some of my favorite wrestling stuff of all
definitely.
time. That's some old vampire fighting tactics. But let's see what else is going on with the local scene down in Florida or where you're at or what you kind of check out. What are some promotions?
I mean, honestly, for me, being in Miami, it's the most southern, really part of Florida, other than the Florida Keys that you can really get to. So, like, we only really have CCW down here. Thank God we have CCW down here, not only for wrestling, but because they're, I believe, one of the best wrestling companies in the country. On top of that, like the shows that they put on, 800 people on a Saturday night, which is next Saturday. I'll be covering that show in Hialeah, Bash of the Brew. They'll do a show in Homestead. But the Miami, the South Florida scene is pretty barren, to be honest.
Okay.
And a lot of times I have to go to Orlando, and it's a 4-hour drive. This week I'm actually going just north of Orlando. So Sunday I'll be driving up, you know, um, in the morning, getting to the show, doing interviews, stay for some of the show or the whole show, hopefully, and then drive 4 hours back because I got to be to work on Monday. So it's 4 up, 4 back, plus the show and the interviews, and it makes for a long day. But I think it's important to have presence at places. Like podcasts are cool, and I love doing podcasts because you can't reach everybody around the country, right? But I feel like when you go to shows and people see your face there, and you can have that. I mean, even 2 weeks ago, I was at a show, and I had talked to somebody. We had talked off and on about doing a podcast, but we ran into each other at the show. And guess what? We have a podcast in a couple weeks just because of that interaction. And then you catch up, and it's a different feeling doing live and having a presence versus just doing podcasts. I think you have to do both. Let's be honest. You got to do both. Um, I mean, if you can't go to local shows, you don't live anywhere. You got to do the podcast. I should say you don't have to do both, but I think it's very important to do both if you can. I would say that you don't have to do anything, but I think it's very very important if you can balance the two. Because I was stubborn about doing the podcast because I'm like, no, the live thing is that's my thing. That's my thing. Even during the pandemic, I think I did like 5 Zoom interviews, and
All
like
right.
because there was no other options, and I'm still like, nope, nope, nope. My thing's the live thing. It's the live thing, and I'm like, okay, but how am I going to talk to somebody in Seattle that never comes to the East Coast, right? Like, I want to interview. You have to like not be stubborn. Something I've learned in dealing with in all fashions of my life, not being so stubborn and open my eyes to be like, okay, like if you want to grow, you have to seize all these opportunities if you can do it. And they're out there for me, right? So I'm gonna go to the live shows. I'm gonna go do the Zooms. I'm gonna do the podcast. We're gonna mix it up. And most importantly, we're gonna have fun while we're doing it. Because if we're not having fun, then let's face it, I'm not retiring from my job anytime soon doing this, no matter what people think about the YouTube dollars coming in. I don't know.
Absolutely. Some great insight there, man. I'm glad you brought that up, just the different mediums and everything. Because we've kind of jumped around here at State of Pro Wrestling and done like a podcast and live streams and everything, and then kind of going back to this just raw, straight to the fans sort of lives and everything. And yeah, building that library back up. You got a really great library there at Toned In Entertainment here on YouTube. You want to talk about some of the guests that you've had on, or run down the list? Bring up maybe special moments, or
I mean, I guess the special moments. I would hate to leave anybody out because I've met a lot of amazing people doing this, like absolutely amazing people. And if I could give any advice to anybody that's starting doing this, and then we'll get into some of the moments, but like
all
I
right.
see podcasters posting about friendships and this and that and whatever. I think you need to go into the standpoint. I treat my interviews with respect. I treat the people I interview with respect. And I've met some wonderful people and developed some friendships from it. But I think there are people that go into it for cool reasons, or to meet the wrestlers, or this like friendships with them. Everybody's busy. We all have lives. I can't, you know, be friends with everybody that you interview. But I think you need to go into it if you're going to do it from a professional standpoint. Now, as far as to answer your question, like the moments that stand out to me are just like the stuff that just is wacky and crazy and out there. Um, I did an interview with Task Force, Mikey Spandex, and DMC. It's just didn't even have an interview set up with them the day of the show. We were there. We said they're like, dude, let's do it. You've had us on individually. Let's do a tag. Oh, sure, whatever. They took over the whole show. They put a T-shirt over my face. They started interviewing me during the thing. The owner comes over. She's like, "You guys are all goofing up." Like she was playing the up the roll and everything. Just little fun moments. I had Meadow, who's gonna be telling you right now, this dude Meadow down here at PCW is a beast. He's one of my favorite people in the whole world. But when I asked him about his new beer and I wanted to try it, he poured his beer over top of my head and then walked off. You know?
Beautiful, man. Yeah, yeah. That's one of the things I love most about pro wrestling is just the larger than life personalities, the almost cartoonish sort of characters and the creations, and the almost limitless creative wise where they want to take it character wise. Some other how about skits? You got any skit stories? You somebody who kind of jumped around the Minnesota Midwest area, and now seen him popping up down there in
Yeah, I mean, it's
CCW.
promised that he's going to eat my ear at some point. Um, I don't know which version of Skits is going to do that because he has like 13 different personalities. But to be real, Skits is a super super talented wrestler. Like I think what he's doing, like I think a lot of people could dress up as a clown and maybe like not be good at it. What Skits is doing in wrestling and down here is I love it. And I tell him every time, I'm like, dude, I am loving what you're doing. He's over with the crowd. Uh, he's just doing amazing things. But yeah, he still has promised my ear at one point. So I just have to be on guard for that because I think he legitimately might just eat my ear, cook it up and eat it. So that's all I can say about Skits.
Crazy, crazy, man. Yeah, yeah. It's been great to talk to you about interviews. I always sit here, be a student, and really take in everything you've had to say tonight. It was amazing to hear about that. You didn't like live streaming and that sort of setting, because when we did the interview, I was like, man, this dude's got it all together. Like I should really try to aspire to what you were doing with the Zoom, and how you utilize that sort of content for your channel. And yeah, everything looks top notch, just beautiful stuff. Like when I look out, and that's been one of the things we wanted to do recently is just work with other interviewers and content creators in the world, and picking out the best from everywhere, man. It'd be great to do more stuff with you down the line here. Yeah, just great insight here tonight, and to look out and see everything that you've done. Um, what else? What else? You say you got that show coming up, a CCW show coming up that you're checking out. You
Yeah,
got any?
well, yeah. This weekend I'm covering Pro Wrestling Action, and they're what they do. That's what I love about these promotions. The way that they do different stuff. Pro Wrestling Action isn't necessarily about technical wrestling. It's about the characters and the stories. Like they're really heavy on characters.
All right.
So it's really about just having a good time. And they have like themes every like 2 months or so show. So they had like a
All
Welcome to the Jungle. They had Radical Rumble. This month, of course, it's Halloween, so it's Monster Match this weekend. So when I did Radical Rumble, I kind of kept it all to like, oh, what do you miss from the Radical days? And what does radical mean to you? And kept it like really fun. And people are like, oh, I wish we had hoverboards and where's our flying cars and all that stuff. So I'm gonna do more of that this weekend, like with like monsters and scary movies and have a little bit. I mean, their promotion's all about really having a good time and having fun. So I'm gonna be doing that, and then CW is more of the serious, like in your face, hardcore matches that they do down in Missouri. And I'll be covering that show, doing a couple interviews, and I mean, I guess I can go ahead and say like I'm going to be at WrestleCade as well this year too in November, out in North Carolina, doing some interviews out there as well too. So we got a lot of cool stuff going on in entertainment. And as far as podcasts, we are fully booked until like December 16th. December 16th. We're October. Like we're booked all November, even the first 2 weeks of December with guests, with themes, um, fully booked with stuff. So we are like we're riding, we're rolling, and we got lots of cool stuff going on the channel.
Very cool. Very cool to see that creative passion in you. Everything coming together. When you say we, you got a team here?
I mean, my wife. It's my production. My production manager extraordinaire, as I like to call her. I run all my ideas. She helps. Um, I mean, that's something else that we do that I don't think many people do. I know Chris Van Vliet is doing it with the two cameras, but we run a two camera setup for our interviews, and then she runs a behind the scenes camera as well too. So she
Okay.
gets shots that take you behind a little bit behind, so you can kind of see the camera's motion. Or heck, when somebody jumps into an interview or something, we're able to capture a little bit. It's not just the camera angles, but it's a little bit more of like, a little bit of behind the scenes shots of the actual interview that's actually going on. So we've kind of got three cameras rolling, while we're doing stuff. So I feel like it, again, to me, I believe in quality, um, and I pump out a lot of quantity as well too. But like, if I'm not happy with something, like I won't just set up something. I mean, if you're at a convention, don't get me wrong, you have pretty much choice to do one camera. You got to do what you got to do. Like you can't just set up three cameras with 10,000 people watching you. You're gonna have
Yeah.
one. Like that's just the way it is. Unless you have your own area or something that you can bring people over to or something. But even then, it's like you have to keep it a minimum. But if I can, I always try to have multiple camera setups. I have to edit it all together. A GoPro shot, a camera shot, the cell phone videos from behind the scenes. So I really want my interviews not only to like like people listen to them differently, but I want them to be visually different from everybody else as well.
Awesome, man. Beautiful. Excellent to hear, man. And for you to be teaming up like that and the journey you've gone on, how you got back into wrestling because of her interest in Ronda Rousey and such a beautiful thing for you two to share, man. I'm jealous now. That's very cool, very cool. And then you two can create like that and kind of go off each other and spin creatively. Um, Very cool. Any tips or advice editing wise? You said you kind of master the video editing sort of thing.
I mean, I've been a video editor for over 20 years, so like it comes
All
to
right.
me naturally. Like I can literally whip out edited videos like very. It's a
Second.
natural skill of mine that I've been doing for so long. It's just one of those things I can boom, 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 get in the zone, wake up before I go to work, boom, 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 come home, edit, boom, 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 boom. I can literally just sit here and edit. Like where some people may, editing not easy, especially when you don't have time codes and you got to layer the sources. And then with the cell phone video, it's not always recorded at the same time. So you got to find where they say, so I'm wrestling Johnny this weekend, and you got to go weekend. Okay, put it here, match it up, make sure it matches the voice, and then lay it down and then chop it up. So it's not the easiest thing, but it is something that I'm able to do. Thankfully, like pretty quickly. Um, it's just I have a knack for, and I love editing. Like to me, I love being able to produce my own stuff. I love editing the videos. I love creating the thumbnails and the graphics and the flyers and everything, all the visuals that you see. Like, you know, I just love being able to do asking the questions, doing the reviews, whatever it is. Like it's like I just sink my whole teeth into it and do it.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I think that's one of the things I enjoy about this too is the different forms of being able to create and use creative outlets. Really, that we were using a one man band scenario where you're really doing everything. Uh, but yeah, just a beautiful thing. Who are some you mentioned Chris Van Vliet earlier? Are there some other interviewers currently that you look out? Some other people, some of your favorites right now, or like influences of yours from the past?
Not really. I dabble into different podcasts on a regular basis. I'll listen to Jericho, once in a while, or Booker T.
All right.
I say I listen to anybody religiously because I just don't have the time. Um, when I'm on the road, I do like those 4 hour drives. I'll be like, oh, now's the time to put on a podcast or something like that. And that's kind of when I listen to the longer ones, or when I'm driving to and from work. I'll like to listen to stuff, but I'm never like, oh, I have to listen to just this person or whatever. It's kind of like, oh, they have an interesting guest on or somebody, you know, I watched the Mission Pro Wrestling. I was watching one of their podcasts the other night. Julie Cup was on there, who's co-hosted a couple of shows with me. She was on with them, so I listened. Thunder Rosa, who owns the company, was doing it the other night. Listen to, that podcast. So I do just dabble, but I don't anybody religious.
All right. And what kind of wrestling do you keep up with? Do you have enough time to keep up with like WWE, AEW, or Indies?
I mean, I try to. I actually enjoy watching Women of Wrestling.
Okay.
Marina over there is doing amazing things. So I do try to watch Women of Wrestling. CCW, I watch a lot of their stuff that I can't go to, like on YouTube. I like watching Reality of Wrestling. Booker T's organization, Inc. is out there a lot, doing good stuff. Love those guys. Love watching them. Eli is going to be a free superstar in this industry, like for sure. Like how that guy has not got signed by now. But also want to give his partner Malik a lot of credit too. Culture Inc. Love those guys. I do enjoy watching Mission Pro Wrestling is another one. It's just a lot of fun. And then whatever kind of comes across my feed sometimes. Sometimes I just randomly watch just something and catches my attention. I'll watch a little MLW once in a while. I try to keep up with I was just watching Dynamite from last night before we got on this because we were out last night. The only thing I did do last night before I went to bed was I watched the Sting segment with Ric Flair because I was like I knew Sting was getting arrested. I watched that, then watched the rest tonight. But it's like even that's 5 hours a week. And then they want to do this, and I'll watch a lot sometimes Saturday morning, Sunday morning when I wake up. A little bit, maybe in the morning during the week if I don't have anything to edit. Like I try to watch, but I can't say that I watch everything of anybody on a regular basis. I feel it's just too much. Or we just don't have enough time. We're adults, and we've got our channels. Like that's, I mean, honestly, that's where a lot of the time goes to as well too. Is prepping for interviews, editing interviews, setting up stuff. I mean, the time and work and effort goes into the behind the scenes work is sometimes more than the actual work itself. Is the behind the scenes stuff. That's why I tell people the hardest job of podcasting is actually setting up with people's schedule. I mean, thankfully, last week I had to cancel this interview because real life got in the way. And I'm like, dude, I'm sorry.
Uh,
I know I'm not going to make the show. And I'm like, please, let's reschedule. I almost got caught up with something else. I was like, nope, I need someone tomorrow night on a Friday so I can do the interview. I was like,
uh,
I can't cancel 2 weekends in a row. Like, it's tough because I have people that have to do the same. Hey, I mean, I had one, I don't say her name, but we had an interview scheduled on a Monday night, and she's like, I just got a call from WWE to do backstage work. I'm like, you need to go to WWE and do backstage work. Like,
don't feel bad about
don't feel
skipping out.
bad.
Okay.
And ended up doing it like 2 weeks later, because then she had other stuff scheduled. I'm like, go do your thing. Like, it's scheduling, I would say, and you have to be patient and plan things out. And it's definitely the hardest part of the job. The interviews are fun. It doesn't feel like work. God, if we could get paid to make a living off of this, it would be the freaking dream, right? It would be the dream. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But it's fun, but it's time consuming. The uploading, the cutting. Now you got YouTube Shorts, you got Reels on Instagram, you got a
So
format
much,
that's
man.
so much. It's like you're like, holy cow! When do I have? When yet somehow make time for it because all of them are important. Some people only watch
Yeah.
people only watch shorts. Some people only go on Twitter, even though I'm not on Twitter. I have Twitter, but I don't use it. It's like 'cause I can't. It's like you just try to do your best. That's all I can say is do your work, do the best that you can, but don't let it come between your personal life and uh don't miss work on it either. Like get your priorities in straight if you want to do the podcast and stuff and fit it in when you got time.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, yeah. It's always a challenge to try to. You only got so much time. What do I invest in? What do I do? Or like you said, behind the scenes. I know I've struggled with editing. That's one of the areas where I struggle with. But even to my kids trying to get into making videos and YouTube because that's the thing now and everything too. But it's like, hey, you don't realize sometimes you're editing for hours just to get that 4 minutes of flawless, make it look as good as you can. And I think that's been one of my things now is being like, all right, I'm not good at that. I need to step back and maybe let somebody else handle that side of it to try to lift up our game, anyways. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
would
man.
say for like a 20-minute interview, right, with three cameras, probably takes. And that's what me editing fast, right? Like I'm not bragging. Like I can legitimately edit fast and do the intro, pick out a clip to put at the beginning as a teaser. Probably
Yeah,
takes me a 20-minute, let's say a 20-minute interview with three cameras, hour and a half to 2 hours. And that's what me like in the zone with headphones on, like no distractions in the morning, like before breakfast, like literally getting up in the morning and trying to crank it out. An hour and a half, 2 hours for a 20 minute. That's why I like, 10-minute interviews, maybe 45 minutes or so, an hour. But yeah, I mean, it before you know it, it's like, no, gotta go to work.
absolutely, absolutely. I think that plays into my craziness. Or yeah, sometimes you look at that clock and you'll be like, goodness, it's already 4 a.m. I've been way too inspired and happy to be creating.
I do
But
mine in the morning. That's why, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to go to sleep because I'd be like, oh, I can still get one more thing done. I can still get one. I do mine in the morning before if I tried to do it at night before I go to bed and didn't finish, it would drive, I wouldn't be able to sleep. So mine's in the morning, get up with that fresh start and do it there.
awesome, man. Well, you can see that passion and drive shining through on your product, everything you do, man. Especially lately, really, yeah, like you said, honing in and got so much going on, like really coming into your own lately, man, with this content. And yeah, it's been very beautiful. The way you put together the interviews and the clips and everything. It's been great. All those different layers, like you said, man. You really got to dabble in all these different areas. Some people want that long 45-minute interview. Some people, hey, I only got enough time to flip through my phone on break, so I need a little 30-second reel of the most important one line of the whole thing. Yeah, it's an honor. I'm grateful that you could join us here tonight. Tony Miller, Toned In Entertainment here on YouTube, Instagram, toned.in.entertainment.
Yes,
Uh,
that's where I make all the announcements for. Like Instagram is the place to follow me on. That's I post there like every show, all the interviews, every like you won't miss nothing on Instagram. I post pretty good about posting like show flyers, what we're covering, who we're interviewing. Those reels, that's where they go to is on Instagram, and then of course everything's on YouTube as well. The full, if you have an hour to watch a podcast or in parts, because I know I watch podcasts. It probably takes me 4 days to watch an hour podcast, right? Minutes at a time. But you come back, watch it, you watch it, you watch it. But yeah, definitely everything's on Instagram for sure, as far as like where everything's posted at.
awesome, man. Well, thanks again for joining us. I think knocked it out the park tonight. There's no follow up questions. I think how some of those interviews naturally flow. You know, you ask about one thing and then boom, 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 kind of knocked out everything. It was a great night. I appreciate spending it with you here at this. This worked out tonight. I kind of got the wrestling friend feel. Like you said, it's fun to go out to these shows to actually meet the people face to face and have that interaction and see what they're into, because there is so much wrestling product out there. There's no way that any one person could keep up with all of it. And I love hearing the stories of how people got into it, what their favorite parts of everything is, and yeah, the passion and the love. See it on your face, man. This whole interview, fucking appreciate it, man. Everything you bring to the pro wrestling journalism game, like I said, to hear your stories about that and the respect that you approach the wrestlers with, because it is hard to respect their personal time and that not everybody wants to do an interview all the time too, and yeah, it's a difficult game, man, to come off as professional and try to do it as professional and be legit, man. There was a lot of years I know I struggled with like the imposter syndrome almost, where you're like, oh, do I fit in here? Do I belong? Like sometimes you're like, these guys are doing it for real, man, and it's hard to stand next to them. So much respect to everything you've been doing. Any other tidbits or anything coming up you want to plug real quick before we go?
I mean, we've got the Dropping Down from the Rafters podcast, which is now every podcast. Now, I know when you were on the show, it was everybody has a story, and then I launched the live streaming one finally. Again, something I was stubborn on for a long time. People are like, "Oh, you got to go do live streaming." No, 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 no. It's not like now. I love it. Now that's all I want to do is the live streaming. So now everything is branded under the Toned In Entertainment YouTube channel, and we've got the Drop Down from the Rafters podcast, which is going to be everything. So interviews with one-on-one interviews. It's maybe a collaboration interview or just a topical one. I've got a really cool one up next Thursday. I
Awesome.
don't say it yet because some people do steal my ideas out there, and what we've done hasn't wrapped up, so I don't want to say it yet. And but it will be Halloween related, and it'll be dropping next Thursday, so a few days after. I got Tyler Peters, who's awesome. He does commentary CW out in Tennessee and Nashville. He does their play-by-play. He's been on the co-host. We've got, let's just
Cool.
say it's a WWE theme. We finally have a WWE themed show, but we're gonna post it next week. We're gonna make an announcement probably maybe on Tuesday what that show will be on Thursday. So
Nice.
fun. WrestleCade. We're gonna be out there. North Carolina. I went last year. 10,000 people out there, man. Saturday. It is insane. You got the legends, you've got the current stars, you got the future stars, a mix of
Nice.
everything out there one day. We're gonna be out there on Saturday. Interviews, have a good time. Some announcements still to come, so you guys stay over to Tone In Entertainment for that as well too. As far as WrestleCade goes, I haven't what exactly I'm going to be doing out there, but it's going to be something very, very cool. I'm very excited to share very soon. So there's lots of cool stuff going on, man. It's just it's the dream, dude. It I know you enjoy doing it as much as I do. Uh, I know that's why you asked me to come on your show. I've had people ask me to, I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not. Just like people say no to other podcasters, right? And I'm like, we had such a great interview. I was like, yeah, for sure, dude. Anytime you need me, you just hit me up. We're doing something. You need a topical thing, dude. I'm there because I love your passion. I love your excitement for wrestling just as much as I love your respect for the business as well too.
Very cool, man. You got me all teary. Much touched my heart right there. I got goosebumps, tears in my eyes, man. Much appreciated. I respect the hell out of you. That means a lot coming from you, man. Like yeah, like you said earlier, it means a lot when people say that and come to you and because yeah, we're not making millions of dollars at this, and
We're not even making dollars sometimes.
we're not even making dozens of dollars.
I have a buddy of mine also. He has a YouTube channel. He's not monetized yet. I'll give him a shout. I just mountain bike related videos, mountain bike Q&A. So he interviews mountain bikers, and he's not monetized yet. He's at like 400 subs, and he thinks I'm just rolling in the dough on YouTube. I'm like, dude, I make dollars every hundreds of millions of dollars. That's for sure. But we also got some merch coming now too. We got the Down from the Raptors podcast merch.
Nice.
It's not on a website right now. I'm only kind of doing orders per, you know, people, and then doing one bulk order and shipping them out. But
All right.
finally got that going this week too, and we got some cool stuff coming. So it's just not gonna stop. That's for sure.
Very cool, man. Well, I'm excited about all the new content you'll be dropping on the Toned In Entertainment YouTube channel there, man. I look forward to seeing it. And I won't steal any of your, I'll be influenced by them. But his goes dun 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 dun. Mine goes dun 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 dun. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. I
No, no, I'm just kidding. I love playing, having fun. It's been a great night, man. It was great to catch up with you. We're gonna have to bring you back on and have you talk to Daniel, man. He's a huge fan of our photographer, huge fan of WoW, and yeah, I think you've got a really great catalog of women's wrestling interviews as well
it's
on
tough.
there. And
It's tough for that. That's the hardest because the I'm sure they get hit up by a million dudes DMs
yeah,
and stuff,
yeah, dude.
and you have to come with respect. You got to
Yeah,
come with professionalism, and you got to show that, hey, like, I'm interviewing you because I want to interview you, not because I think I'm going to get to know you or something like that. Though, so it's you got to bring your A game of professionalism 24/7. That's my best advice.
absolutely, man. Yeah, yeah, definitely women's wrestling another because there's so many slime balls and just they probably get a message a billion interviews every day. But yeah, it's been cool. The journey that we go on through, you said, like, yeah, like we're not making millions, but the opportunities, the chances to interview talent, and then the inspiration of seeing them go on to larger things, like seeing that Sky Blue interview, and yeah, the list goes on and on for you. And like you said, it's always hard to don't want to leave anybody out because
Yeah, to me, it's the most rewarding thing. Like when you get to see somebody that has talent, right? Like I knew Sky Blue had talent. Like when I saw her wrestle, I'm like, this girl has the talent to be big time. Roxanne Perez in NXT, knew that girl had talent. Layla Gray, some of the big names. I'm like, I knew, like, just from seeing, like, you just know sometimes, like, and there's a lot more that haven't made it to the big time that will sure. I'm gonna leave out names if I don't say any other,
I
because
think
there's so much talent out there, my man. It is crazy, and it's just about, again, like, us getting that right break and them getting the right break too, because there's a guys and girls out there. I mean, and all these shows that I go to could be on TV. You know, Pretty much everybody at these shows have the ability. I would say 90% to be on TV.
that's been part of the excitement, man. Because like you said, that kind of that stigma of independent wrestling. Oh, wrestling at the VFW, like they got to be some really talented people. But then when you really go to these independent shows, you're like, good lord, like if their rosters weren't so full already, like they absolutely, a lot of these people could be on TV, and like to see that level, the right situation, it's been really inspiring. And yeah, to see people making it to that next level and everything. I think we'll wrap this. Usually, I do something wild and crazy. I don't know if there's anything. Got my homies like. Should we get your hot take on the Starcade? We'll save that for a future time. The
That can be
Starcade.
that can be a whole different podcast. Yeah.
I was joking around that perhaps that should be Sting's last match. Tony Khan pay Hulk Hogan to lay down and do the right thing. We'll dress up and recreate Starcade '97.
Let's get it right. Let's get it right this
Speaking
time.
of coming down from the rafters, oh yeah, the new podcast debuting, Tony Miller, Toned In Entertainment. Great night. Thank you so much for being a guest and saying those nice words. That stuff really means the world to us. Every time somebody says that, because yeah, man, there's not $1 million out here. That's our $1 million. I don't need a mansion. I'll sleep in my van, knowing that Tony Miller loves and respects the brand.
There you go.
All right, have a good night, brother. It was great to talk to you.
Yes, thank you again for so much for having me on here. Again, anytime you want me on to do some type of topical podcast, just hit me up. We'll make some time for it.
Beautiful, awesome, man. Maybe we'll hit you up with some video editing gigs too. We are looking for.
Oh God, no, I can't handle anymore. I can't.
He said, "I'm overbooked."
I'm not putting my application out there for that. And if I
All
do,
right.
I want millions of dollars for that. That I am charging a lot of money for.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I understand that. He said, "I'm already booked through 3 lifetimes." Oh yeah. Well, have a great night, man. It was great to chat with you. We are here with Join Us Live.
For sure.
Guest tonight, Tony Miller.
All right. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.